Ladies and gentlemen, imagine for a moment that everything you believe about yourself, your limits, your potential, your worth, is either helping you soar or quietly holding you back. What if I told you that the key to achieving the coolest things in life isn't luck, talent, or timing, but 5 simple beliefs you choose to live by every single day? In the next few minutes, I'm going to show you how to unlock your hidden potential, step into your power, and achieve things you once thought were impossible. By the time we're done, you'll never see yourself the same way again. Believe this for a moment: every remarkable achievement you admire in others began with a simple internal decision. Asterisk a belief about who they were capable of becoming. Asterisk, and the truth is, you already possess the same capacity. The difference lies not in talent, not in opportunity, but in the story you tell yourself about what you can or cannot do. When you shift that story, you shift your entire direction. The first thing to believe is that you matter. Not in a vague, inspirational way, but in a very real, practical sense. Your presence changes things. The way you speak, the way you act, the way you show up, these create ripples in places you may never see. When you believe that you matter, you stop waiting for permission to contribute. You stop assuming someone else is more qualified, more prepared, more deserving. You step forward because you recognize that who you are has weight, and that weight can shape the world around you. The second belief is that you are capable of growth. Too often, people look at their current abilities as permanent markers of who they are. But nothing remarkable ever happens from a mindset that assumes today's version of you is the final version. Growth is not about instant transformation. It's about the willingness to try, to fail, to learn, and to try again. When you believe you can grow, failure no longer becomes a verdict. It becomes a strategy. Every setback becomes data. Every challenge becomes a doorway. When you believe you can grow, the impossible becomes simply something you haven't figured out yet. The third belief is that your dreams are valid. Many people shrink their goals to match the limitations people place on them. They stop dreaming boldly because they fear being judged for wanting more. But dreams are not meant to be realistic. They are meant to stretch you, to challenge you, to call you forward into the person you could become. Believing your dreams are valid gives you permission to chase what excites you instead of what is convenient. It gives you permission to move with purpose rather than fear, and once you are aligned with a purpose, cool things begin to unfold, opportunities, ideas, people, because clarity attracts momentum. The fourth belief is that you are resilient. Life will not ask whether you're ready before it challenges you. It will test you, disrupt you, and demand things from you that may feel unfair. But resilience isn't something you discover only after hardship. It's something you believe about yourself before hardship arrives. When you trust your resilience, you stop running from difficulty and start facing it with a quiet confidence. You begin to understand that you can bend without breaking. You begin to trust that strength grows in the moments where you feel most uncertain. And with resilience, you find that challenges stop being roadblocks and start being stepping stones. The fifth belief is that your journey is uniquely yours. Comparison steals more potential than fear ever could. When you measure your progress against others, you lose sight of the fact that every person is walking a different path with different obstacles and different timelines. Believing in the uniqueness of your journey frees you from the pressure to catch up. It reminds you that meaningful progress is not measured by speed, but by direction. It encourages you to honor your pace, your experiences, and your evolution. And when you embrace your own path, you unlock a kind of authenticity that inspires others without you even trying. Cool things are not achieved by extraordinary people. They're achieved by ordinary people who believe extraordinary things about themselves. Not because they are delusional, but because belief shapes behavior, and behavior shapes results. When you believe you matter, you show up differently. When you believe you can grow, you try differently. When you believe your dreams are valid, you commit differently. When you believe you are resilient, you endure differently. And when you believe your journey is uniquely yours, you rise differently. Believe these 5 things, and you won't just achieve cool things. you'll become someone capable of creating them again and again. And when you begin to internalize these beliefs, something subtle yet powerful starts to shift within you. You stop waking up simply to get through the day and start waking up to contribute to it. You begin making decisions not from fear, but from intention. You start seeing opportunities where you once saw obstacles, and pathways where you once saw dead ends. The transformation doesn't happen overnight. It happens in the small choices that accumulate into a new identity. It happens every time you choose belief over doubt, action over hesitation, and courage over comfort. When you believe you matter, you walk into rooms with a different posture. You stop shrinking yourself to fit into spaces that were never designed for your potential. You start realizing that your ideas carry value, that your perspective is needed, and that your voice belongs at the table. This belief pushes you to take initiative, to contribute even when you're unsure, and to bring energy that elevates the people around you. It creates a ripple effect, one fueled not by ego but by purpose. You begin to operate with the quiet understanding that your presence makes a difference, even when no one acknowledges it out loud. Believing in your capacity for growth changes the way you interpret challenges. Instead of thinking, "I'm not good at this," you start thinking, "I'm not good at this yet." That three-letter shift becomes the gateway to progress. It gives you room to explore new skills, to take risks, and to develop competence through repetition. Growth-minded people don't wait to feel ready, they get ready by doing. They understand that progress lives on the other side of discomfort. They are willing to be beginners, willing to make mistakes, and willing to learn publicly without tying their worth to perfection. This belief becomes a driving force that expands your possibilities far beyond what you once thought you were capable of. When you believe your dreams are valid, you stop asking the world for permission to want more. You stop interpreting others' doubts as truth and start viewing them as reflections of their own limitations. You begin to choose goals that energize you rather than goals that impress others. You let curiosity guide you. You let vision lead you, and when your dreams become a compass instead of a fantasy, you naturally begin to align your habits, your environment, and your actions with what you truly desire. What once felt unrealistic starts becoming achievable simply because you dared to believe it belonged to you. Resilience becomes your anchor when life pushes back. Believing you are resilient doesn't mean you enjoy struggle. It means you trust yourself to survive it and grow from it. You stop viewing hard moments as signs you're on the wrong path and start seeing them as confirmation that you're evolving. You recognize that pressure forms strength, that storms build endurance, and that every moment of adversity becomes part of your story. This belief gives you the emotional stamina to keep going when results are slow, when progress is invisible, and when doubt creeps in. It reminds you that setbacks are not indicators of inadequacy. They are invitations to rise. And when you believe your journey is uniquely yours, you begin to move through life with a sense of grounded confidence. You stop sprinting just because someone else is sprinting. You stop comparing your chapter 1 to someone else's chapter 10. You stop measuring your worth against the timelines or achievements of others. This belief brings freedom. Freedom from unnecessary pressure, from internal judgment, from unrealistic expectations. You start taking pride in your steps, however small they may seem. You begin to appreciate the experiences that shaped you, the lessons that developed you, and the pace that fits you. You start trusting that where you are is exactly where you need to be to prepare for where you're going. These beliefs do more than shape your mindset, they shape your behavior, your resilience, your courage, and ultimately your destiny. Because belief is not passive, it's active. It's a force that influences how you think, how you speak, how you show up, and how you respond to the world. When you embody these beliefs, your actions start reflecting them. You make bolder choices. You set higher standards. You surround yourself with people who stretch you instead of shrinking you. You take ownership of your life instead of waiting for circumstances to shift on their own. And slowly, almost imperceptibly, cool things begin to happen. Opportunities appear that once passed you by. Ideas emerge that you never gave yourself permission to explore. Confidence grows in moments where you once felt small. You begin to understand that your achievements aren't random. They are the natural result of the beliefs you've chosen to live by. And as those beliefs take root, you don't just achieve cool things, you become the kind of person who attracts them, creates them, and sustains them. And as you continue to live from these beliefs, something even deeper begins to happen. You start developing a kind of internal alignment that makes your actions feel less like effort and more like expression. You stop forcing yourself to be disciplined and instead become committed because you finally understand why you're doing what you're doing. You begin to act from conviction rather than obligation, and when your internal world aligns with your external actions, momentum becomes almost inevitable. You'll notice that your decisions shift. You stop choosing what is easy just because it's familiar, and you start choosing what is meaningful even when it feels uncertain. You begin to prioritize long-term fulfillment over short-term comfort. This shift is subtle, but it's powerful, because it signals that you're no longer driven by fear or doubt, but by purpose. And purpose is what turns ordinary individuals into extraordinary contributors. With every small step forward, belief strengthens. Every time you speak up when you used to stay silent, every time you try when you used to hesitate, every time you learn when you used to quit early, you reinforce the identity you're building. Confidence isn't something you wait for, it's something you create through consistent action. You begin to realize that every brave moment, no matter how small, is evidence that you are becoming someone capable of more than you once imagined. You'll also begin to experience a shift in how you respond to resistance. Instead of being discouraged by the moments that test you, you start recognizing them as necessary intervals along the path to growth. You stop interpreting adversity as a sign you should stop and start seeing it as proof you're evolving. When frustration shows up, you treat it as feedback. When uncertainty arrives, you use it as fuel. When fear whispers, you don't silence it, you outgrow it. Because belief doesn't remove fear, it teaches you to move anyway. As these beliefs take root, you start noticing something remarkable. People respond differently to you. Not because you're pretending to be confident, but because you're living with clarity. People can feel when someone believes in their own value. They can sense when someone is walking with intention rather than doubt. They can see when someone is anchored, focused, and grounded in purpose. And they naturally gravitate toward it. This is how leaders emerge, not from titles or recognition, but from consistent authenticity and genuine conviction. You'll find yourself becoming more patient with the process. You stop demanding instant results because you begin to appreciate the depth that comes from steady growth. You understand that meaningful achievement doesn't require rushing. It requires precision, persistence, and presence. Instead of demanding that success arrive quickly, you begin trusting that it will arrive when you have become the person capable of sustaining it. This trust removes unnecessary pressure and replaces it with a steady confidence that keeps you moving forward at the right pace. And as your belief strengthens, your environment begins to shift too. You start choosing the people who fuel your growth, not drain your energy. You distance yourself from voices that diminish your potential, and you gravitate toward those who challenge you to rise higher. You create boundaries not out of defensiveness, but out of self-respect. You begin crafting a life where you don't merely survive but thrive, because you understand that your potential deserves conditions that help it grow. You'll also realize that achieving cool things is less about chasing recognition and more about building a life you're proud of. It's about showing up with integrity, pushing yourself with compassion, and making decisions that align with your future rather than your fears. It's about trusting the unfolding process and recognizing that even your smallest efforts are contributing to something bigger than you can currently see. When you believe in your own journey, the path becomes less about competing and more about creating. Over time, you'll notice that the gap between who you were and who you are becoming widens in the best possible way. You'll look back and realize that the person you once were, the one filled with doubts, hesitation, or uncertainty, was simply waiting for you to choose belief. You'll see how each moment of courage built upon the last, how every challenge shaped your resilience, how every failure deepened your wisdom, how every small victory carried you a little further. And in this realization, you begin to understand something profound. Cool things aren't achieved because you have all the answers, or because you've mastered every skill, or because you never experience fear. They're achieved because you choose belief again and again, even on the days when it feels difficult. You choose to show up even when results are slow. You choose to trust the process even when the finish line isn't visible. You choose to keep becoming, keep evolving, and keep stepping into your own potential. This is how change happens, not through one grand moment, but through countless small decisions rooted in belief. And every time you choose belief, you shape the next chapter of who you are becoming. And as you continue down this path, you start to notice how contagious belief truly is. When you embody confidence in your own value, growth in your own abilities, and commitment to your own journey, it naturally inspires those around you. People are drawn to certainty, to purpose, and to the energy of someone who is fully aligned with themselves. Your belief begins to create a gravitational pull. Opportunities, collaborations, and even unexpected breakthroughs seem to emerge not by accident, but as a natural consequence of your presence. What you once thought required luck now becomes the outcome of consistency, clarity, and conviction. You also start understanding that the cool things you achieve are rarely solitary victories. They are the result of interdependent connections, the people you influence, and the energy you bring into each interaction. Believing in yourself allows you to contribute meaningfully, to speak up in ways that matter, and to challenge ideas without fear. You recognize that the most significant achievements are not only personal, they ripple outward. Every action you take, grounded in belief, creates a chain reaction that elevates others while simultaneously advancing your own journey. Leadership, in its truest sense, emerges when you show up for yourself and, in doing so, show up for others. As this awareness deepens, fear begins to lose its grip. Fear doesn't disappear. It never truly does, but its influence diminishes because it no longer dictates your choices. You stop asking, "What if I fail?" and start asking, "What if I try?" You stop looking for guarantees and start trusting the process. You stop avoiding challenges and start leaning into them with curiosity, knowing that growth lies on the other side. Belief transforms fear from a barrier into a compass. It points you toward the edges of your potential, the areas where meaningful progress can only happen when you step forward anyway. Belief also rewires your relationship with setbacks. No longer are they signs of inadequacy, they become instruments of refinement. Every challenge, every misstep, every disappointment becomes data, a lesson in how to adjust, iterate, and improve. You begin to see obstacles not as stop signs, but as the very training ground for excellence, and in this mindset, the very act of persistence becomes a demonstration of courage. You understand that persistence is not merely doing more, but doing with intentionality, learning with focus, and refining with patience. The world begins to open up not because it owes you anything, but because you have proven to yourself that you will not be derailed. Alongside persistence comes clarity. The more you believe in yourself, the clearer your vision becomes. You start to recognize which opportunities are aligned with your purpose and which are distractions. You begin to make decisions faster, act with greater precision, and conserve your energy for what truly matters. This clarity acts like a lens, magnifying your impact while minimizing wasted effort. And when your focus sharpens, the quality of your work improves, your presence becomes more felt, and your ability to influence grows exponentially. Belief also transforms your internal dialogue. You stop criticizing yourself for what you haven't done and start celebrating every step forward, every skill developed, every small victory. You begin to understand that self-worth is not earned in a single moment, but cultivated through consistent alignment with your values, actions, and purpose. Confidence emerges not as arrogance, but as quiet assurance, an inner knowing that no matter the circumstances, You have what it takes to navigate, adapt, and thrive. And this inner dialogue begins to shape every action you take, creating a feedback loop where belief generates action, action generates results, and results reinforce belief. You begin to recognize the subtle power of habits built on belief. When your daily actions are anchored in the knowledge that you are capable, resilient, and deserving, they compound over time. Small, consistent behaviors, reading, practicing, connecting, reflecting, transform into momentum that carries you forward even when motivation wavers. You realize that cool things aren't the result of one-time bursts of energy. They are the product of disciplined belief, driven behavior sustained over months and years. The seemingly small choices you make daily are the true engines of extraordinary outcomes, and eventually you notice a shift in how you measure success. You stop defining it solely by accolades, recognition, or material rewards. Instead, success becomes about alignment, aligning your actions with your values, your efforts with your potential, and your vision with your daily choices. It becomes about the courage to step into uncertainty, the discipline to follow through, and the persistence to keep believing in yourself when the world hasn't yet acknowledged your value. In this alignment, achievement becomes inevitable not because the world owes you anything, but because you have become someone who consistently shows up, contributes meaningfully, and refuses to settle for less than your potential. And as your belief deepens, you begin to operate from a place of influence rather than control. You stop trying to manipulate outcomes and start shaping environments. You invest in relationships, in ideas, and in experiences that matter. You leverage your skills and insights not to prove your worth, but to expand your impact. And in doing so, the cool things you once imagined start to materialize not as fleeting successes, but as enduring milestones that reflect the person you've become, the journey you've committed to, and the beliefs you've chosen to live by.